Unlike other big European countries such as Great Britain or France, Germany didn't have any colonies until very late into the 19th century, mostly because it didn't exist until 1871. But that doesn't mean that Germans weren't involved at all during the very early days of colonialism. People like Hans von Staden and Ulrich Schmiedel fought as mercenaries alongside Spanish and Portuguese conquerors and helped them to carve out their empires. Many people from the Holy Roman Empire worked as scientists, merchants, explorers, and missionaries all over the world. There was, however, a very short-lived colonial venture in 16th century modern-day Venezuela under the leadership of the influential Welser family. Many nationalists back in the 19th century liked to call it the first German colony, even though that's quite debatable. Anyway, today we'll have a look at how this colony came into being, how it worked, and why it eventually failed. King Charles V of Spain was a very powerful man. A prominent member of the Habsburg family, he was not only King of Spain but also Archduke of Austria after his grandfather had died in 1519. 1 year later he was crowned Holy Roman Emperor, most likely after bribing the electors with an irresistible amount of money. Shortly after his coronation, he found himself in a long series of wars against the French. What these wars were about isn't awfully important now, just the fact that his eventual victory cost Charles a lot of money. Money that he simply couldn't come by without taking out a bunch of loans. The most important lenders were from the Welser family, whose merchants had become immeasurably rich in the preceding decades, mainly due to their participation in the Portuguese spice trade in the early 1500s. They also owned very valuable silver mines in Tyrol, extracted copper in Bohemia, and established their trading bases in Lisbon, Venice, Naples, Cologne, and Sevilla. By 1528, King Charles owed the Welser family just about 1.8 million ducats, or about 300 million euros in modern day money. Seeing no way that he could ever pay back this much debt, he signed the Treaty of Madrid in 1528. The contract specified that the Welser family be given control over the Spanish colony of Venezuela, or Little Venice, as a fiefdom for 30 years. Spain would still technically own the area, but the Welsers could send their own governors and other officials of state. They were exempted from certain taxes, they would get a 4% cut on all the income, and they could enslave the local indigenous people and import even more slaves from Africa. Both sides profited from that agreement. King Charles got rid of his debts and could put the task of developing the colony of Venezuela into someone else's hands. He would still make a profit, but without any of the risks that would normally come with such a venture. And the Welser family could profit off the immense wealth that they expected to find on the South American continent. In 1529, Governor Ambrosius Alfinger, together with 280 men, arrived at the small settlement of Goro, or Neu-Augsburg, as the new owners would have called it. Their hopes of a lush abundance of silver, gold, or gemstones were soon shattered, however. Some of the 50 miners that were brought from Tyrol or northern Germany reported that the temperature was simply too hot and unbearable. Not that there was much to gain anyway. The area that the Welser family controlled was very sparse in precious metals. They might have found oil, but that was completely worthless in the 16th century. And even the tiny amount of gold that was given to them as a gift by the natives was laughable compared to the wealth that was extracted from other Spanish colonies such as Mexico. On top of that, the inhumane temperatures made farming activities extremely difficult, so even food had to be imported from elsewhere. Even though they managed to stabilize the area and found a new city called Neu-Nürnberg, or Maracaibo as we'd call it today, the economic situation was dire to say the least. The colonizers decided that they should enslave a considerable amount of natives and just sell them off to keep the project of Klein Venedig going. On top of that, an expedition led by Nikolaus Federmann was sent deep into the Venezuelan mainland with the goal of finding new riches or even the golden city of El Dorado. This shows that the colonizers were a lot more interested in short-term gain in the form of treasure, grave robbings or slaves, rather than costly long-term investments to improve the local infrastructure. Even the miners joined the conquista troops and plundered alongside them. So it's fair to say that the colony was doomed from the start. The natives and the German conquistadors often fought brutal battles against each other, and in one of those, Ambrosius Alfinger was killed. Although the expeditions were everything but profitable, the Spanish started to see the Germans as competition for some reason. The missionary Bartolomé de las Casas read, for example, "The Germans are worse than the wildest lions. Out of greed, these human devils act much more brutally than any of their predecessors." Some of these negative sentiments probably carried over into the 20th century. In the 1940s, the Colombian author and journalist Germán Arciniegas claimed that the Germans built the very first concentration camps in 16th century Venezuela, which is nonsense. All those horrible things which they did can't possibly be excused, but we can't pretend that the German colonization practices were something out of the ordinary. It's most likely that they were neither better nor worse than other colonizers like Spain or Portugal at the time. Be that as it may, but the bloodshed was completely pointless. Despite all of these expeditions and investments from southern Germany, Klein Venedig was simply not generating any money. The head of the Welser family, Bartholomeus V, tried to make up for that by selling 4,000 African slaves in the Caribbean. But the demand was low, so instead local Venezuelan slaves were forced to work under inhumane and often lethal circumstances. In 1540, Bartholomeus V sent his son, Bartholomeus VI, to Klein Venedig, where he, together with the explorer Philip von Hutten and 100 other conquistadors, set out to finally discover the promised gold in the Amazonian jungle. After 4 years without success, the situation in Klein Venedig was about to escalate. The Welser family were no longer willing to invest any money, the local governor was dead, the entire place seemed to be in complete anarchy, and the massive amount of complaints started to reach Spain. The new Spanish governor, Juan de Carvajal, decided to take matters into his own hands and executed von Hutten and Bartholomeus VI before they could return to Neu-Augsburg. In 1546, Charles V cancelled the Treaty of Madrid and put Venezuela back under firm Spanish control. Having lost his son and his fortune, Bartholomeus V tried to regain control over his colony for 10 years, before finally giving up. In 1557, Spain had to declare bankruptcy, which hit the Welser family even harder. A few years later, they slipped into irrelevancy, alongside their little colonial project, which most people today have probably never heard of.